So in the brand new update, Tycoon just added the EOD suit along with the APS underwater rifle, and today I'm going to be testing these things in very high detail to see how good they truly are. So anyway, before we start this video, make sure to join my Discord server. I'm actually giving away the RAS-66 Comanche Hunter. But anyway, the first thing which I'd like to test is going to be the APS underwater rifle to see how good it actually is without its underwater features. This is a good weapon on its own. This thing has a damage of 27.9, fire rate of 600, range of 8000, accuracy of 90.2, hit recoil of 10, and V recoil of 15. So quickly, something I'd like to calculate is going to be the overall DPS which this thing has, and the way I calculate the DPS is by doing the damage times fire rate divided by 60, and this thing's DPS is looking at 279. However, its damage per minute is also gonna end up being 16,740. So whenever I look at the Tycoon's gun table, I always like to see where this thing would place, and I believe this thing would actually place slightly below the HK 416, so it's gonna be around the top 10 best weapons in the game when it comes to overall damage. That is a very high spot because it is competing with things like the FAL Heavy, SR3 Vicar, KS1, all that stuff. And now quickly taking a look at its performance against the player, as you guys can see, it can even deal a damage of 49 to the head, which is honestly kinda insane since it means on average you're gonna be 4 to 5 shotting the person. However, Kisbotek has also stated that this thing was supposed to have pretty decent performance against lightly armored vehicles, and the damage that it does against them is only really 8, so to me that's just average. It's nothing too special, to be completely honest with you. Now moving into the EOD armor, and I have to say this thing has so many different uses, and I genuinely believe that this is the best armor in the game. So firstly, starting with the C4, this thing is actually able to tank it. However, you do have to be a slight distance away from it, because if you're like right on top of the C4, you're obviously gonna die. However, it is most realistic that the C4 explodes next to you instead of like right in your face, so right here you would be able to actually survive it. Now this thing is also able to tank landmines, which is also pretty nice. I do really appreciate that, even though the landmines are not even that good, but I guess if you step on it, that's kind of useful. Now the explosive sniper also gets made kind of useless, to be totally honest with you, because the EOD armor is able to tank literally 2 explosive sniper shots, so that's another thing that you need to really worry about now. And if the people are constantly just shooting the ground of the explosive sniper to try to kill you like they usually do, that shot is now absolutely useless because you barely do any damage to the player with the explosion damage. So that kind of sucks for all the explosive sniper players that paid like 2,000 Robux for this. Now its performance against the grenade launcher is a little less noticeable than the explosive sniper, however it is still pretty decent. You're going to be able to survive fairly 2 more grenades if the person doesn't hit you directly, which is decent. However, the thing that I find most impressive right here is that this thing can literally survive 2 grenades being thrown at you basically. It is absolutely crazy to me, because normally the grenades literally one-shot you, but here they cannot even 2-shot you. Now another thing which this is also really useful for is just overall vehicle survival. I have found a great use for it against helicopters, because normally helis would try to kill you whenever you're like out of your vehicle, you're on the ground, etc, etc, but the Mi-28 literally struggles to kill anybody that's actually using the EOD armor. As you guys can see, when I'm thoroughly trying to dodge, it is taking them so long to kill me, and there's plenty of things which I could do in that situation to get out of there. And now lastly, one more thing which I have also noticed is that the full damage is way less on it. I believe you're able to survive around 800 or 750 stat falls, which is pretty insane. However, the reason why that was done is because you cannot wear a parachute if you're using the EOD armor, which to me is actually kind of fair, to be totally honest. However, I do believe from now on, if you're like a helicopter player and you do not have an ejection seat, you're kind of gonna need to plan out your fall and kind of get to a space where you know you're gonna survive it, because if you don't, then you're gonna die from fall damage in a lot of cases. But anyway, for the time being, that's basically all the uses which I actually found for the EOD armor, and I do believe it to be the best armor in the game. It only cuts down your movement by 25%, but it provides you 125 health and all these other uses. I mean, come on, it has to be worth it. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great rest of your day, and make sure to join my Discord server. I'm currently giving away the Comanche.